Hello, my beautiful friends. It has been a hot minute, but I was camping and traveling and doing all kinds of stuff, but I'm here. And I don't know why my background's blurred because I unchecked blurred, but here we are. I could also do another background, but then I get this halo around my head, which is delightful because it makes me feel very high and holy, but alas, I don't know. I'll figure that out. But anyway, because this is a new computer. Anyway, I went to see Noah yesterday at the Sound and Sight Millennium Theater. I don't know, it's got a long name. It's in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Lancaster, depending on where you are and how you say it. And it was really good. And whether or not you're Christian or not, I think the story of the floods are in a few different traditions, and the story of Noah is fascinating because can you imagine, God, your spirit guide, somebody says, "Hey, it's never rained before, but I want you to build this boat in the middle of where there's no rain and no water. I want you to build this huge, huge boat that's the size of a football field, an American football field, and wide and tall, and you build that, and then eventually there's going to be a flood, and then you're going to just open one door because you're only allowed to have one door, and animals two by two are going to come. They're just going to come. All the animals in the world are going to come, and you have to bring all of them except the aquatic life because they'll be able to swim around in a flood. But you're going to do this with your family of eight. You're gonna do this, right? So you think about that and you think, wow, how faithful Noah is, and his wife, who isn't specifically named in the Bible by name, but Noah had a wife. I can just imagine if Dave came home and said, hey, God spoke to me in the car and said, hey, um, I'm going to build a football field sized boat. I would props to Noah's wife, really. Props to Noah's wife. So then you think they have to construct this giant thing out of I can't remember the wood that they called it, but it either doesn't exist anymore or it's a name that is a different kind of wood, right? So they have to build this wood. So they have to find all that wood. And then they have to like transport it to where they're building this boat. And then they have to figure out how to build this boat because, he was a farmer. He wasn't he or whatever, like he wasn't a boat maker. There wasn't water and he didn't know how to make a boat, but he trusted God. He trusted God and trusted God's vision. So they make this boat. There's people, not happy. The neighbors are making fun of him. His own brother is like totally uncool with it. And he's being attacked and they tried to burn down the boat. But that didn't work. And so so he builds the boat, he opens the door, the animals start coming, and he's like, I don't even know what you are, but I bet you poop a lot and you probably eat a lot. So when I got home from the show, I kind of Googled like, well, if there were two of every animal, did like Noah eat them? I mean, like, did their family eat these animals? But they didn't because the diet before the flood was all vegetarian. It was a vegan diet because remember cheese wasn't invented yet, stuff like that. So it was a vegan diet, from the Garden of Eden to that point. So they had like beans and stuff like that, like things that they had dried or whatever, greens or whatever. But they had to have all the feed for all these animals that they didn't even know, and then they had to figure out the poop system. I mean, I have cats, four of them. They poop a lot. That's four cats, little tiny cats. They had elephants and giraffes and lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. Wow. I mean, that's a lot of faith, right? Now people say, well, that story's just bullshit and it's not real. Well, I think it's real. I don't know. I think it's God's, infinitely powerful and infinitely wise. And so whether you believe the story or not, it's still, it's a fantastic tale of faith and trust. And when everybody's like saying, that guy is like off his rocker, that guy is that Noah, he's, but Methuselah was there. I love Methuselah. Like everybody should have a Methuselah in their life, right? But he said, like, when I die, that's going to be the sign. The floods are going to come right after that. And he lived to be like, I don't know, 900 years old, but I think they counted time differently because Noah lived to be that old too. And he was like, I don't know, like 600 years old when this happened, right? So I'm thinking they counted time differently. But everybody in his family, like, they're like, okay, Dad, we're gonna build a boat. You think God spoke to you, said build a boat? We've never seen rain come from this. We've never seen water fall from the sky, but okay, we're going to build this boat because you believe that God said that. So it's not just faith, like Noah's faith, it's his family's faith in him, right? How amazing is that? It's such an amazing story. And really, this production was sensational. I ugly cried. I ugly cried when they open the door and the animals come. I started because they had a mixture of real animals like goats and cows and things. Then they had these two actors who were like not chimpanzees, the apes, and they were just hysterical. They were really good actors. They were like best actor. All the actors are good, but these two were like fantastic. And then they had animatronics for like the elephants and the giraffes. And what got me were the Galapagos tortoises. They had these two uh, uh, animatronic tortoises, and I'm a turtle lover. So I mean, that was right before halftime, and then you come back, and there's then they're on a boat for like the rains were 40 days, but what I never realized because I didn't really pay attention in Sunday school was that they were on the boat for over a year. They were on the ark for over a year, even though the floods were only 40 days, because there was water and it had to go away. There was a lot of water, so they had to stay on the boat. They couldn't just like, okay, rain's over, let's go out and play. So they had to stay on the boat, and then so food was getting scarce for the horse, for all the animals and all the stuff, and so and they were on top of a mountain, right? Like their boat landed on top of a mountain. So so I mean, it's such an incredible story. And then at the end, Sight and Sound is a Christian um, organization, and so like the set design is absolutely stunning. Like even if you're not Christian and you're not into the messages, still go, because if you're into theater, holy smokes. I directed theater as when I was full-time faculty, and I didn't have a budget, so I did not have the resources these folks do, but the set design and the lighting is just phenomenal. Like it's a whole, like, it's not surround because it's not behind you, but it's 3/4, and it's like it opens up, and there's just like you're in the inside of the ark with all the pens and all the different animals. It is just tremendous. And then at the end, when if you're familiar with the Noah story, God sends a rainbow as a sign of peace and his love, and says he'll never cause a flood like that again. And then like the way that they do the lighting, the ark become, because Noah's like, people say, oh, his family's like, oh, we knew you were going to be the chosen one, and he's like, no, I'm not the chosen one. There's going to be another one that comes after me. And then the ark in the background, like the way that they do the lighting, it makes a cross out of the front of the ark, and then the door opens, and then Jesus steps out. Tears, tears, tears. It was so beautiful. It's just amazing. It was really, really nice. So even if you're not Christian, I think you could really appreciate, the story and the message of hope. And it wasn't lost on me that right now, with everything going on in the world internationally between Israel and Iran, locally with the Army's 250th birthday and the parade that's happening today and the protests that are happening today, there's just so much going on, and when you see the story of Noah, or you remember the story of Noah, that goes back, that those tensions, that strife, that conflict, the violence, like that, it goes back to the times of Moses, right? Like that was what God created the flood, because things got out of hand. I don't know. I'd be surprised if God wouldn't start another, say, like, I know I promised I wouldn't do it again, but I don't know, y'all need something, because this is horrible. So how do we keep hope? Well, I mean, the one thing that I think you learn from Noah, whether you're Christian or not, is that, if you believe something, if you believe a truth, it didn't harm anybody for him to build the ark. I mean, people thought he was foolish, but who cares? People think I'm nutty all the time. They're like, oh, she looks at stones and she, prays, and what, like, is she a witch, or is she a Christian? Is she a nun? What is she? What is she? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what they think. Doesn't matter. Matters what I think and my relationship with God and Jesus, right? It doesn't matter whether the church thinks what I'm doing is heretical. It doesn't matter that other humans like or dislike what I do, and it doesn't matter if you're not hurting somebody, if you're not, a cult leader or something, and you're not hurting somebody and you're not being unethical, then your beliefs are your beliefs and you have the right to them. And so, just know his faith and then the faith of his family. Like that's like, I just know that if Dave came home and said, I'm going to build a boat, the size of a football field, I'd be like, what? What? But Noah's wife was like, okay, I'll make a soup. I'll go get some soup and I mean, and it took them like, I don't know, 50 years or something to build this ark. That's no rain, right? Like you're building this ark and every day, no rain, no rain. And then one day it's like, okay, now it's raining, right? So the faith, right? And the dedication and, seeing it through. I think that's the other thing is that like I get distracted. I'm like a squirrel. So, I'll be like, "Ah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to journal every day. And then like a squirrel, even my YouTube channel, right? Like, I'm going to do a video every day and try to bring light and love into this world. And I'm like, ooh, oh, I got distracted. And then it's like 2 weeks later and I'm like, oh, gosh, I haven't done a video for a while. I should do one. So, so the steadfastness and the dedication of Noah and his family, and the hard work. I mean, imagine that work to build the ark, and then the work of taking care of the animals. For that year that they were in there, feeding them. The poop system, and making sure that they stayed healthy, and because there was a male and female of every species. So imagine the noise, imagine the smell. Holy smokes, I know what my cat's box smells like when we don't, tend to it. Can you imagine? Can you imagine a boat full of that? I mean, I hope that there had to be ventilation, right? Because of all the methane gas, right? There had to be some kind of some kind of like system for airing out the ark. I mean, really, when you think about it, it is pretty incredible. But incredible things can happen. Spirit, whatever you believe in, whatever, God or goddess or whatever you believe in, like spirit is powerful and that light and love guides us. And we just have to trust it. We just have to say, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And then follow it through. And then when, things get real, when the floods come, hold tight and just keep on keeping on. And eventually, God will say, okay, time to get off the boat or whatever your higher power is, time to open the door. And it's a brand new day. I am wishing you all the best in light and love. Be well. Take care. Bye bye.